Welcome back to another episode of the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Mudgear Hannibal Race Pro, Evan Preparis. Got a guest with me on the line, though. Before we get to him, a quick word from this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Juice Performer. If you haven't tried Juice Performer, I don't know where you've been at OCR for the last couple of years. So they've been a sponsor of the team for several years. If you come to any Conquer the Gauntlets or basically anything Thomas Plush goes to, one of my teammates, Casey Timber Challenge, Battle of the Lions, whatever we were going to in the last couple of years, we had some free samples to give away. So I've got a whole bunch more free samples. So if you're going to cross paths with me at a race and I am within driving distance of my house, I will bring some free samples. You can try it out. It's beet juice or cherry juice. And the beet juice, they have mix-ins with like pineapple, great for pre-workout, for vasodilation there. And then for post-workout, they have cherry juice, helps with inflammation. All right, let's get to today's guest. I have Kyle Butters on the line with me. Kyle, say hi.
Hey, everybody.
So I linked up with Kyle through Infinite Hero Foundation. So for those of you who've been following along for a while, I was running Tough Mudder's Infinite Hero Honor Challenge last year. It was like an 8-hour team building event, kind of like Hurricane Heat, but a little more of the Tough Mudder flair, a little more fun, to raise money for Infinite Hero Foundation. And then I used OCR Everest, my charity event. The 10-minute video is available on YouTube to, again, raise money for Infinite Hero Foundation, who does mental and physical support for veterans. And he was doing some fundraising stuff with endurance, and that is kind of like what I do. So I was like, well, this is a great opportunity to, one, promote the charity, and two, learn a little more about him. So I'm going to give you some of his background real quick. He was in the Army from May 2009 to October 2017. Had a whole bunch of positions. I'm not going to read them out here because for most of the people who are not military, they won't mean much, but had some really good positions as an artillery officer, which is what I used to be, and then did a couple deployments to Afghanistan, which is kind of the opposite of me. So I did all Iraq, and then ended up at 5th Special Forces Group, again, which we were actually there at the same time. We just learned. I've been through a couple of awesome schools, Airborne Pathfinder, JFO, JTAC School, Mountain Warfare, Arctic Warfare, and then it's been done a whole bunch of races, so 200-mile gravel bike races, 50-mile gravel bike race, 12 half marathons, a couple of Army 10-milers, some obstacle course race, and a 50-mile ruck in Alaska. All right. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. We had a heck of a time trying to schedule this. Mostly my fault. Just been super busy lately.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey on my end too. Having 2 kids makes life very busy.
I feel you. I feel you on that. So let's start off with let's just jump into it. Tell us a little bit about your charity event and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, so I like to run. My charity is based around running. I actually do a 48-hour, 44-mile run in support of the Infinite Hero Foundation. I created it in 2021, so this will be my 3rd year doing it. It's been an interesting journey, to say the least, and it's definitely grown over time. But it's been a great way to give back to veterans, and specifically to give back through the Infinite Hero Foundation.
Yeah. So as far as the run goes, do you do 22 miles a day, or how do you break it down?
Yeah, so I do 22 miles a day, and that breaks down to 5 4-mile runs each day and a 2-mile run. So I don't do the 22 miles straight, which in my mind would be much easier, actually, just to do 22 miles straight, each day for 2 days. But I actually break it up into the separate runs to give more opportunity for people to come out and run with me, because I don't know if you know this, but most people don't want to run 22 miles straight.
I do know
however, I can convince them to come out and do 4 miles or 2 miles. I find that to be much easier to get people to do that. So that's how I break it up. It's evolved over time. The first year I did this in 2021, I did it a little bit differently, mostly because of its, its origin story, if you will, coming from the David Goggins 4x4x48. I had my best friend was doing that on a weekend. I think they usually do it in March. And I looked at him, I said, "You're crazy. That sounds ridiculous." But he challenged me and said, "Oh, let's do it." So I didn't want to do that exactly. So I did something a little different. And I did, that's when I created my 22 miles a day. event was from that, with the basis being the 4x4 by 48. And that first year, doing all those miles by myself, and I did it a little differently because I did 3-mile loops, not the 4-mile loops. And I got absolutely zero sleep. So come the second year last year, we adapted to the 4-mile loops because it gave me a little bit more of a, fewer laps, which equaled more sleep, which, as you know, sleep is important.
It is, yes. And why 22 per day?
So 22 a day represents, unfortunately, the average number of soldier suicides. Well, soldiers, veterans, that includes sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guard men and women, per day. So 22 per day is the unfortunate average. I think that comes from a study back in 2014. And since then, that number has shifted anywhere from 17 per day at its lowest up to 41 per day at its highest, depending on what you look at. So 22 is that number that most people know, and it's something that other organizations have rallied around. So I wanted to stay there as well for, it's easier for that recognition piece so people know what it is. Unfortunately for me, I lost 2 of my soldiers to suicide throughout my time in the Army. And that's why I do 22 miles twice, one day for each of them. That's kind of how I honor them and, try to keep that memory alive.
Gotcha. So, you come up with the idea one year, all right, you're going to do these 22 miles a day. Why partner with Infinite Hero? Why not do a different, because there's a ton of military charities. How did you find them, and why did you choose them?
That's a great question, because there are so many veterans charities out there on the landscape and so many organizations doing wonderful things. Infinite Hero was something, as a foundation, I knew about them since their infancy back in 2012, I believe is when they were founded. They were founded in part by Colin Baden from Oakley. And I'm a huge Oakley fanboy, I'll admit it. I love Oakley. I love all their equipment. And, being in the Army, that's kind of a good thing because they provide a lot of that eyewear and other.
I used to rock the Oakley boots and Oakley sunglasses on my first couple deployments.
Yeah, and then they changed those Oakley boots, man. They're not good anymore. They went to kind of this Nike looking thing. It's just, I don't know.
Did they?
Yeah, that boot change. It's not as good anymore. Trust me.
And the gloves too. I was rocking the gloves with the hard knuckles.
Yeah.
Those things are
I've
money.
got those.
Yeah,
those are good. So I was familiar with the Infinite Hero Foundation because of that, brand recognition and relationship I had with Oakley going back quite a ways. And when I got back from my first deployment to Afghanistan in 2012, that's when I really started looking at, different veterans charities and ways to give back. And I had found the Infinite Hero Foundation at that point and, supported them financially. And then over a few years, I kind of honestly lost touch and kind of forgot about them. And when I went in 2021 to do this running event, one of my very good friends, after he told me I was crazy for doing this, he followed that up by asking, why was I doing it? What was the reason that I was, going to torture myself for an entire weekend of running? And he really made me think. And I thought, I really should do this for something. And I was sitting in my office and I turned around and, spinning around in my chair, wasting time. And having to look over at my coin rack. For those that aren't familiar with the military, challenge coins are a thing that are given out for, unit morale building and attaboys, and you good job here, good job there, you get challenge coins. And something Infinite Hero did was they had created a challenge coin, and if you donated money to them, you got a challenge coin. So I looked over at my coin rack when I spun around and I saw my Infinite Hero coin. And that was literally the reason that brought me back to them as my charity of choice for my running event. So it's kind of a interesting story.
Nice. Yeah, interesting. So I read off some of your athletic bio kind of at the beginning. Let's go back to the first charity event you did, right? So back 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is, 2 years, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
I guess what surprised you when you actually did the event? Like obviously it's running, right? So you're going to be tired, and but what did you kind of not see coming?
So there were a lot of things. Having been the first time I've done something like that, the first thing was I was shocked by the investment that the Infinite Hero Foundation made in me when I told them that I was going to do this on their behalf, because we're talking like 10 days before I decided to do this crazy event. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I want to raise money for you guys. How do we do this? And they jumped right on it, and they helped me get it together, figured out how to collect donations, so that back end support from them immediately was great. And I was like, wow, this is an organization that actually cares and is going to support those that are supporting them, which to me was incredible. The other things that I learned along the way, I guess more specifically to the run itself, was like we talked about, sleep is important. And I was amazed how, it wasn't really the physical aspect of running that drove me into the ground. It was the lack of sleep and the fact that you just can't keep up on calories. When you're turning around and running every 3 or 4 hours, you can't get enough down to satiate yourself and to keep up with the calories that you're losing. So those are really the things that surprised me. And I guess I have to say the running was not easy, but it did surprise me that the running was probably at the bottom of the list of the hardest things I did that weekend. That was really shocking.
Yeah. I'll double down on that. Infinite Hero being very supportive. I've partnered with a couple charities, and they all are supportive in a different way. But I really liked Infinite Hero was doing a lot of sharing and like social media promoting. And when I did OCR Everest last year to raise money for them, like when you went to the Infinite Hero page, there was like a pop up with like my face on it, and I was like, oh, we're serious about this. So it was cool to see some of that like additional marketing support behind them. Behind the event. So
yeah, they're really good at that stuff, and they're always pushing me to make videos for social media and put pictures up and do this other stuff to promote the event, which honestly for me is tough. I don't do well with the videos, and they drug me back kicking and screaming to social media because I had left all platforms for
yeah.
years. And it wasn't until this year that they finally dragged me back, and it's paid off. It's helped raise awareness of the event, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean if you're for us the obstacle course racer, like if you want sponsors or you want to even fundraise for someone like Infinite Hero, like you need a social media presence. Like that was it's huge, right? Like otherwise if essentially if you don't tell anyone about it, no one knows, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um cool. So you do it the first year, and for me, I've done similar things where I do like endurance charity events every year for the last 7 years. Except usually when I go, what? Not usually. Every time a year goes by, I change what I'm doing. So why do it again? Why not be like, all right, well, I checked that block. Let's do something different, or let's not do a charity event this year, or there's a lot of other options. Why do you end up doing the same thing year two and year three?
Yeah. So it did change. It did evolve. It's evolved each year. So the first year, I think I did a total of 44 miles over the weekend, but I didn't quite do 22 per day. I think one day was slightly heavier than the other day. And I remember the week after looking back at it and thinking, man, I missed an opportunity there. I should have done 22 per day. And so, it's one of those like Monday morning quarterback type things where you look at it, that missed opportunity, and that's really what drove like, all right, I got to do it again. So that was the genesis for the next year. And so I took, I didn't do a whole lot over that next summer, and then that fall we got back into planning for the next event in 2022, and we decided we wanted to move it from March to April, and we wanted to make sure we did 22 miles per day and not just 44 total. Now we moved it from March to April because out here in Maryland, the weather in March is very unpredictable. You could have snow or you could have 75 degrees. And the first year I had snow, I did not appreciate that very much. So we moved it to April in the hopes of, getting a little bit warmer weather. And then so we did the event 2022. We did 22 miles per day for 2 days for a total of 44. And that's also when we made the shift to the 4-mile loops of 5 of those per day, and then 1 2-mile loop each day at noon. So Saturday at noon and Sunday at noon, we do a 2-mile loop. And we wanted that 2-mile loop again because it does broaden who can participate in this event. And one of the big things we learned from the first year was how much of a community event this really was. 2021, you're still talking pretty heavy into the pandemic. People don't want to be around each other. People are still scared of each other. And all of a sudden, with my run in March of 2021, people came out and ran with me. And it was okay. And people really enjoyed just that community building aspect. And I found an opportunity that I could talk to more people about the Infinite Hero mission, and also my personal mission to raise awareness of veterans' mental health issues and suicide prevention. So having that knowledge from the first year, we knew we wanted kind of, warmer weather for the second year. So push it to April, and also add in these 2-mile events so that we could get more people to participate. Those people that are still intimidated by that 4-mile, course.
Yeah.
The other thing we changed a little bit is with the 4-mile, I could spread out my time a little bit so I could get, an hour and a half of sleep in between some of my runs, which to me was amazing, having an hour and a half to sleep. Some people might not consider that good sleep, but you got to get what you can. So now coming into 2023, we now have 2 years of learning. So we have pushed the event to June. So it's June 9th to the 11th this year instead of April. Again, trying to chase that better weather. More people are going to want to participate. You're talking the end of the school year. People are kind of in that happy mood. Oh, it's end of school year. It's just after Memorial Day. People are looking to kind of get out and start their summers, and we're hoping that this is a way to get people out to do that. We also did some things this year with trying to bring on a few team members to help me plan this year, because the last 2 years it's been my wife and I plus the Infinite Hero staff. And I don't know about you, but I didn't really have the time for a second full-time job, which is what it turned into.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot of planning. Even something that seems simple on the surface is there's a lot of backside stuff that goes into like every charity event I've done.
Yeah. So this year we brought on a team, and it's interesting because my team, I've got one guy here in Maryland who's helping me. I have a guy in Colorado. I have a guy in Hawaii. And then I have the Infinite Hero team in California. So trying to coordinate Zoom calls to figure out everything behind the race is pretty interesting. I end up doing some weird times in order to fit everybody's schedule. But, ultimately, the thought process behind adding team members was that would increase our contact with other people and hopefully drive more money to the charity, and also to get more people involved as participants. Because as much as I'm trying to raise money for the Infinite Hero Foundation, I'm also trying to get people to come out and run. The participation piece is huge to me. The more people I can get out and talk to and put these issues in front of them and have real conversations, I think the better off we are. And these last 2 years, like last year, the first year I had 3 people who ran with me throughout the weekend at, different parts. I'm the only one who's done the whole weekend. Then last year in 2022, I had 33 people throughout the weekend come out and run with me. I mean, that's a, I'm not good at math. I don't know how many times more people that is. 30 more people, and then throughout the weekend, as far as I actually had people come out and just hang out and, spectators, if you will. And we had, I think, somewhere around 200 to 250 people throughout the weekend come talk to me and come see what we're doing. And that's huge to me. The more we can get this information out there.
Gotcha. So let's say someone's listening and they want to get involved. How can they, where can they donate? Or let's say they want to come out in person, where are they showing up? And, is there a registration, et cetera?
Yeah. So if you go to the Infinite Hero website, which is infinitehero.org, there's a tab right at the top. You got, home, who we are, and then my event, which is 22 miles of break boundaries, right there on the top line of the Infinite Hero Foundation website. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the landing page, which has registration options and donation options. So for those who want to participate either in person or virtually, because, I want to remind everybody that you can participate virtually. There's nothing wrong with, doing your own version of this wherever you are. And so you can sign up virtually, or you can sign up to do this in Pasadena, Maryland with me in person. So those options are there. And then, like I said, there's the option to donate. This year, something cool that we did is we designed a challenge coin, which goes back to the origin story of how I chose Infinite Hero as my charity of choice. So I wanted to, have a challenge coin as the, if you sign up to participate or you donate a certain amount of money, I think it's $40, you get this challenge coin that I designed for the event. So I think right now I have a few people signed up to do the event here with me in person. I actually have 2 people who are signed up to do the full 44 miles with me over the weekend, which is new. I've never had anyone actually do the full 44 with me, so that'll be interesting. I don't know how to warn them about the the hallucinations on day 2. That'll be a fun journey for them. So it'll be fun to have more people on the journey this year. But yeah, the infinitehero.org website is where to go.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And then, of course, Facebook and, Twitter and all that. If you look up Infinite Hero Foundation, we're all over social media.
Yeah. So in your bio, you sent me, you said, fun fact, I hated running when I was in the Army. I had to leave the Army in order to really enjoy it. So tell me a little bit more about that statement.
Yeah. So Army running. Let's talk about Army running.
Yeah.
Running is very, very important in the Army, especially as an officer. You're judged on your physical fitness, and the biggest component of what you're judged on is your running ability. And so that from the start turned me off and was like, I don't want to do this. How is that important? Why does that matter? How does that make me a good leader or a bad leader? And regardless of how you feel, that's how they do things. Mm-hmm. And then, I think is what I really disliked in the Army about running was formation running. Those anything bigger than a company-sized run is just miserable. When you're out there on a battalion run, so you're talking, could be 400 or 500 people in formation trying to run in lockstep with the person in front of you, behind you, and beside you. And oh, by the way, throw some cadences in there too, and sing-alongs. That just was not fun to me. I did not enjoy, those formation runs. And so, the old saying of rank has its privileges, right? And that was one of my favorite things about being a platoon leader and then being a battery commander was if you're a platoon leader and you take your platoon out on the run, you're out in front. You don't have to match anybody's step. They have to match yours. And same when you're a battery commander, you're running out in front and they've got to fall in behind you and, be miserable behind you for how many ever miles you decide to run them that day. But, once I got out of the Army and started running on my own and really learning how to run, I really started enjoying it, because I think that's the other thing the Army maybe doesn't do a great job of is teaching people how to run. It's just like, oh, you just show up and run.
All right. Now you hit it right on the head. The Army has a good way of sucking the fun out of some things that are enjoyable. Like I love shooting, and then like in a conventional unit, you'd go to the range sometimes and you'd be like, this is terrible. Like it's taking all day, and we're wasting a lot of time because they're just dealing with a lot of people, right? And they have like all these extra safety precautions, versus or like airborne operations, right? So jumping out of planes, like a lot of people hate jumping on military planes, but we'll go and skydive on the weekends for fun, So
you come back from a deployment and your reward is, hey, we're going to celebrate the return from the deployment with a division run. Who wants to do that?
Yeah. All right, so this is going to be your 3rd year doing the 22 miles a day. How many more years you plan on doing it, or are you just kind of taking it year by year?
It's really year by year, but I mean, this is definitely at least going to be next year and hopefully the year after that. And, if I can keep doing it for the years to come, I'll keep doing it. Some of the partnerships we've been able to build this year and, with our sponsors are relationships that we're hoping will evolve and grow over the next couple of years. For example, we've made partnerships with Liberty Military Housing, which, does a lot of different, mostly Navy and Marine bases, and they manage the housing at those locations. Like here in Annapolis in Maryland, they manage the housing there. And we have plans with them already for 2024 is how we're going to partner and how we're going to grow this event. And then we have other partners that are on that same track that we have plans for the coming years. So we're trying to take a long picture of this and grow this. And hopefully, our goal is to have at least one participant in every state. So, we're doing this both in person and virtually. And that's why the virtual side is so important, because I eventually want to have at least one representative from every state. And, from that, the hope is that some of those people will do their own events, take this and run with it. I had one idea, but there's got to be better ideas out there. And I'm hoping that my event spurs those other people to take hold and grow their own event, because it's incredible the impact you can have when, you start talking to another person or a business about, hey, I'm doing this run for charity. And they say, oh, or who are you doing it, on behalf of, or where'd you sign up for this? And then you tell them, no, I created this. This is a grassroots thing that I created and I'm doing. I am the person. I am the founder of this. All of a sudden they get really interested, and it's a great way to get more people involved. And when they can actually, see the person standing in front of them who's created these events and can see the passion behind it. So that's really the goal is to keep growing this and to get people to do eventually their own events.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it 100%. I think sometimes when, especially if you get like heavily involved in like the ultra running world, we see people doing these like very, very crazy things that take sometimes days, weeks, and even months, right? Like transcontinental runs, like running across the United States. And it's like, you don't have to do something that crazy to do something hard that's like hard for you that can be used for a good cause, right? As long as it's hard for you personally, like if you're severely overweight and you're going to run a 5K for charity, right? Like that might be enough, right? Like that, know, or maybe you're not severely overweight. Maybe you're just running, a 5K or 10K, right? Like there are things you can do to help, raise awareness of whatever charity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a military one, and create a fundraising thing. And
that's why I challenge people that come out with me. And I get a lot of people say, oh, I don't run. I'm like, okay, so don't run. How about you walk? How about you ride a bike? How about you just show up and have a conversation?
Yeah.
There's so much more to be done. And that's why I really challenge people that even if running's not your thing, that's okay. You can still sign up. You could, for all I care, you could go walk 0.2 miles or 0.22 miles, and that's your day. If that's what's challenging to you, and if that's what gets you active and that's what gets you involved with this mission, then that's what I want you to do.
Nice. So that first year, it sounded like it was a quick kind of idea to execution, right? So like,
yeah.
So you didn't do much training for it, it sounds like.
No.
Did you modify that the following year? Were you like, all right, I'm actually going to train for this? Or did you still like, I'm just going to wing it and just kind of power through it on an event day?
I'd love to say that I spent months and months training, but we know the reality behind that. I definitely improved my training from year 1 to year 2, because after I did the event the first time, like I said, that first week afterwards, I was already looking back and saying, oh, I could have done this different. I could have done this better. So I knew I wanted to do it again. So I definitely changed my training strategy to focus more on longer distances and endurance running. And so the biggest thing I would do, I think I started doing it, probably 2 or 3 months from the event. I start running multiple times a day. because again, it's that turnover that's so hard. It's not the distance of the running, it's the number of times that you're starting and stopping, because as you know, as soon as you stop running, you start to tighten up.
Yeah.
So to then get up and go again a few hours later is not a great feeling. So that was the biggest piece of training that I did. And I think I got to the point where the couple of weeks before I was running, you know, 4 times a day for different distances. So you're talking some days up to 16, 20 miles a day, you know, for the last couple of weeks. And I'd say probably the couple months before that, I was, you know, averaging 2 to 3 runs per day. And then for this year, I have already started doing my 2-a-day runs. I started those last week. Mother Nature decided to play a nice prank on me and started the tree pollen season last week as well. So unfortunately, this last 3 or 4 days, my runs have been indoors on a treadmill, which is just horrendous, especially if you're trying to do it twice a day. So I've really tried to do at least one run outside and one on the treadmill to try to save myself a little bit from the allergies, because they're really bad. But the hope is by the middle of this week, I'll have both of my runs back outside. And probably by the second week in May, I'll be up to running 3 times a day. And then probably the week before the event, so the first week of June, I'll probably start tapering down and you know, take the couple days off, probably the 7th and 8th of June before I start on the 9th.
Nice. Yeah, the treadmill running is, I've done a couple of charity endurance things on treadmills, and they are not fun.
No.
After doing them, I'm always like, I am not running on the treadmill for several months. Like I don't even like looking at it. I'm like, oh, gross me out. So
yeah, I started catching up on some of my movies that I had queued on my Netflix and my Amazon Prime, you know, on the treadmill for hours at a time.
That is a good technique to encourage myself to run in the off season. I usually watch like The Mandalorian or like whatever Star Wars came out and be like, all right, I can only watch it if I'm on the treadmill. So it like forces me to, I'm like, all right, I got to watch the next episode. So it forces in the off season when, you know, motivation might be a little bit lower to get out there and log some miles on the treadmill.
It's funny you say that, because I think Thursday was Star Wars Episode 1 and Friday's run was Star Wars Episode 2. I'm on that same track.
Nice. This is a good plan. All right, we're going to start wrapping things up. But before we do that, tell us a little bit more about like the why behind the whole event.
So like we've talked about this whole time, you know, the 22 miles per day represents the 2 soldiers that I lost to suicide during my time in the Army. But more personally for me, you know, mental health has unfortunately been something I have fought with for years. And, you know, between my 2 deployments, one to Afghanistan and one in support of Inherent Resolve in the Middle East, a lot of different things happened. And as you know, and many other people know, it sometimes it takes us a while to process those things and maybe recognize them. And so from my first deployment to Afghanistan back in 2011, I didn't realize the impact that deployment had on me. Some of the things that happened, some of the people that we lost, I didn't really realize what that had done to me. And it wasn't until I deployed to Inherent Resolve and realized, you know, the effect that I was still living with from, you know, 5 or 6 years earlier in Afghanistan. So it was a slow build for me to realize that I had some stuff going on. And, you know, ultimately I had my own suicidal struggles that thankfully I was able to work through, not just myself, but with the help of many other people. And, you know, so I'm still sitting here today. And unfortunately, those events led to me having to be retired from the Army and leave the thing that I loved, which was, you know, the Army, and something I planned on doing for the rest of my life. And I think if I had been more aware of my own mental health and seen the warning signs earlier in my career, earlier in my time, maybe I'd still be in. Maybe I'd still be doing those things that ultimately I wanted to do, but I didn't know. I was, as we say, young and dumb, and it took a long time for me to realize what was going on with myself. And so as a personal mission with this run that I'm doing is also to talk to people and help them maybe get a little bit deeper into themselves, because it's amazing what the conversations you can have with people when they're a little bit physically run down. When you're running a 4-mile loop with them at midnight or 4 a.m., they tend to open up and they'll tell you things about themselves, and you'll tell things about yourself, and you learn and you grow. And, so I want that aspect to be felt by other people that participate with me. And I also want to open the eyes to people that maybe don't know what veterans go through and what service members go through with their mental health. And Infinite Hero as an organization does a great job of calling attention to these issues and putting money towards these issues to try to help veterans. And I think the more awareness that we have of organizations like this and charities like this, the better off we're all going to be. Because again, it's so much of this is about awareness. And if I can help somebody along the way recognize these signs of poor mental health within themselves and get help before it's too late, then that's a victory. Thankfully, I found help and I'm doing much better now, but I could have avoided a lot of this had I known in the first place.
Did you get your help from like within other like while still in the Army, or was it kind of like you said after you got out?
That was the hard part. After Afghanistan, when I came home in 2012, everyone goes through this post-deployment mental health screening. And I remember telling the doctor there, some of the issues I was having with sleep and nightmares. And the guy just, slung some Benadryl at me and said, "Oh, you just need more sleep. You'll be fine after a few weeks." And so I did that. I went along with my life. And quite honestly, when I looked at the other soldiers around me and I looked at my peers, I didn't see myself as being very different from them. I saw them as being pretty much the same as me, whether it was sleep or whether it was just angry people or, short tempers. Like, that's just the Army, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it took so long to recognize and took so long for me to get help. And it wasn't until my second deployment when things kind of went bad for me. And I ended up getting, help within the Army for about a year before I left.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. So I've had friends that have basically done, a deployment and like basically only stay in the Army for a couple of years and then get out. I've had ones that stayed in for like 10 years, like kind of closer to you. And then I've guns, me and some of the guys I would work with have stayed in almost the full 20. And I found that, again, this is just personal anecdotes. The guys who did one deployment and then got out were like inadvertently cutting off of their support structure, right? Because you're cutting off all the people who had gone through very similar experiences. And, some of the experiences, like you said, from deployments, it takes you time to process them. It's weird, right? Like, and as you get older, you process them differently, right? So now that I'm a father and I have 2 kids and, some of the, I don't look back on the experiences the same exact way, right? Like my college roommate was killed in April of 2007, and like when he died, it was sad, and then like it kind of got better with time, and now like when I go visit his grave, it's almost worse because now I feel like, well, I got to live an extra 15 years already, right? And like he never met my kids, he never, never got to see me grow up. He didn't get to have kids of his own. So yeah, you definitely like absorb experiences and process them differently over time. Just kind of want to reiterate and agree with that statement there. And if you need help, absolutely reach out to people, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out for help. I think the Army in general has done better with that
Yeah.
over the last couple of years. I know at my unit in Fort Riley, they actually made like mental health checks part of your like annual screening, right? So like just like you go to a dentist every year, just like you go get your vision checked every year, you go see a mental health provider every year, and you like they talk to you for a little bit, and if they don't identify anything wrong or you don't identify something wrong, like that's kind of it until next year. And if they do identify something wrong or you want more, it gives you an opportunity to say something basically, right? Because some people will not say something until they are directly asked. So
Yeah, I think it's also good to have that additional person looking at you because, like I said, so many of my issues went unrecognized because I would look at the people around me and we were all kind of the same.
yeah,
All of
yeah,
us had varying levels of issues, so you don't see yourself as standing out. And so the people that you see going to mental health appointments or finding help are like, oh, what's wrong with that person? And the stigma has gotten better. Hopefully it's even gotten better since I got out. But I know when I was in and going through, my hardest times in 2017, it still wasn't the easiest thing to, one, admit that you needed help,
yeah.
and two, to
Type A
actually,
personalities, it's
yeah,
part of the culture. It's part of the culture.
yeah, yeah. And
Sorry to
then two,
interrupt.
to actually,
Yeah.
no, you're good. But the second part of that is to actually follow through with getting help. It's one thing to recognize that you need it, because I know I interacted with, and I still do interact with a lot of men who say, oh, I know I need help. They don't actually do it.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't think I don't think that I'm some superhuman special person because I went and got help. It was the fact that the people around me pushed me to go get help. They were smart enough to recognize that I really needed it and pushed me to go get it. So I'm very thankful for my wife, a few soldiers that I served with in fifth group that really pushed me to get the help that I needed. Um, and funny enough, it was actually the battalion surgeon who finally called me on. I was like, nope, I'm taking you now. That battalion surgeon probably saved my life. He literally put me in, a vehicle and drove me to the only available mental health we had downrange, which was I think it was an Air Force social worker. And he put me in that office and said, nope, this is what you're doing. Remove that choice from me, remove that stubbornness from me. And as much as I hated it, and I still wonder back whether I could have made it or not, but ultimately, that man saved my life. And that's something we need to do for each other, because as men, whether you're a soldier or not a soldier, we're not good about doing what we need to do when it comes to our mental health.
Yeah, terrible at it. Not
Yeah.
good at it. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate something you said earlier about like, when having conversations in the middle of the night. If anyone listened to the episode I did with like the last episode with Bobby Ross, which was like probably like 2 or 3 episodes ago, we were basically saying the exact same thing. He was pacing me during my last endurance event for charity, and again, in the middle of the night, like people start asking questions, you'll tell them almost anything, especially when you're
Yeah.
sleep deprived and you're
Yeah.
physically exhausted. It breaks down those cultural norms and that some of your barriers. When you're
Yeah. I
suffering with
I
people.
ended up having great conversations with people when I run. And last year at one point, I think it was the 4 a.m. Sunday morning run, it morphed into morphed from good conversations to what is Kyle talking about? One of my really good friends who was running with me, that thankfully happens to be a psychiatrist, we get done with the run, and he told me that I was talking about things that just weren't even there. So I had definitely reached the point of exhaustion by that point. I still had 2 runs ahead of me, but I got it done, pushed through and made it happen.
Good stuff. All right. I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Kyle, thanks again for coming on. Before we actually let you go, what we like to do is ask people the question, tell us something people would be surprised to know about you. So it could be anything, usually the more random, the better.
Put me on the spot here, huh?
Yeah.
Make me do some thinking. So something people might think is weird.
Yes, people would be surprised. So yeah, it could be weird.
Um,
We've had people talk about their various, Pokemon card collections to I don't know, whatever weird to movies. Like some people have cited like their favorite movies or like odd foods, etc. So,
Huh. Well, off the top of my head, I can't find anything that's super strange about me. I'm a pretty average guy with a wife and a job and two kids. I think one odd thing that I do is I tend to have the line of work that I do. We have these technical meetings, and sometimes these technical meetings during the week will go multiple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours for these working groups. And so instead of sitting at my desk, I'll put my Bluetooth headphones on and take my phone, put it in my pocket, and I will go run during these meetings. And I'll run the entire meeting, 2-3 hours. And I've had multiple times where something gets asked of me and I'm able to articulate an answer in the meeting without the person knowing that I'm running.
amazing.
And, and it's entertaining. Like my boss is fully aware of what I do and thinks it's kind of a creative use of time. And, in our day and age, I can sit there during these meetings and I can fumble around on Facebook, or I can do something useful like go run.
Yeah, and I would argue if you're running, you're probably paying better attention than a lot of the people who are like sitting there messing around on their phone, surfing Facebook, or like, working on another project in the middle of the meeting. So
yeah, it's a great expenditure of time.
I remember during COVID, when COVID like first started, we did a couple of Zoom meetings, and they like, all right, we're gonna do a Zoom meeting now, and I'm like literally in the middle of a run on the treadmill. And I was like, well, I'm not stopping, so it's like. So yeah, I've done the same thing before too, or I've had like the meeting was scheduled and my time window only allowed for a certain amount of time. So I was like, well, I'm finishing my run, at least in the beginning of this meeting. So yeah, I approve.
Gotta get it in.
I approve. All right, where can people? We already mentioned Infinite Hero. Found infinitehero.org. Can people follow you on social media? We're gonna be putting up updates the weekend of the event. Where can they find updates of what's going on?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on Facebook, just Kyle Butters, and on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Those are the platforms that we'll mostly use to promote the run. There's already stuff on there. I think there's a couple videos on YouTube that Infinite Hero has put up. And, we're doing a lot of promotion right now of the event itself. And then during the weekend, probably do some, might strap a GoPro to my chest and do some live, videos as I'm running, and give some insight into those conversations as they happen. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn are probably the best.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, if you're listening to this podcast, head over and check out teamstrengthspeed.com. It's our website. We've got some books on there. If you're interested in some mental tips for endurance, like Kyle's doing, we have a book called On Endurance. It basically takes lessons learned from the last 200 or so podcasts, and I kind of cherry pick out some lessons learned that people have put out over the course of recording all these episodes over the last, I don't know how long it's been, 6 years, 7 years. It's been a hot minute. So that book's called On Endurance. If you want to hear more about military stuff, my biography is available, Ultra-OCR Man. It's available on Audible, digital, and hard copy. If you are an obstacle course racer and you stumbled onto this podcast, we've got several obstacle course racing specific books to help you train for your next obstacle course race. Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing, and Mudrun Guide's Ultra OCR Bible. And other than that, we do have Blegmitz for our endurance people. The Blegmitz neoprene mittens are back in stock, all sizes. This will be the last resupply before Toughest Mudder, Infinity, probably be the last resupply before World's Toughest. So make sure you head over to teamstrengthspeed.com and check out those books, and also available on Kindle. If you're on, you can pick them up right off of Amazon too. All right, we're going to get going. Kyle, thanks again for recording this. Thanks for all the work you're doing with Infinite Hero. And then thanks for being flexible to my schedule. This is round 3 of us trying to record and not messing. This one we finally both on the same page. So I appreciate your flexibility.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. This has been great.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Bye.